Today, I'm going to put my 2020 Tacoma in four-wheel drive for the first time. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Like I said, today I'm going to put my 2020 Toyota Tacoma into four-wheel drive. I haven't done it yet. I've been a bad four-wheel drive owner. So we're going to get out on the road. I'm going to give it a test. Now, by the way, you're supposed to do this for at least 10 miles monthly to keep everything lubricated in the four-wheel drive system. So I've had this truck for, let's see, March, April, May, a little over a month. So I'm sure the dealer didn't do it before I got it, so it's a little overdue. So let's get rolling. Now, this is going to be interesting because I don't think I've ever put, that's not true. Years ago, I did have a four-wheel drive Tacoma in a snowy climate, and I did put it into four-wheel drive several times. So I have done it before, but it has been quite a while. All right, let's get going here. Gonna get out here on the road and give it a test. Should be quite smooth. Now, the one thing that the manual does say is you shouldn't shift it into four-wheel drive high if you're going faster than 62 miles an hour. So I don't suppose we're going to get up to 62 miles an hour in this little trip, so we should be good the whole time. And as I mentioned, you are supposed to hit this at least once a month for 10 miles, so we're going to do that today. And the other thing to be aware of, and the reason you don't want to drive around in four-wheel drive all the time, let's say, is because it puts a lot of wear on your tires. When you've got power going to every wheel, and if you've ever gone into four-wheel drive, then you know that it really grips the road, especially if it's dry. So you want to make sure that that you're not running around in four-wheel drive on dry pavement like I'm going to do today. To protect your tires. Okay, here we go. We're on a straight road. Now, the manual says I don't need to clutch it or anything. This is a manual. I can just shift into 4 high. So here we go. Well, I heard a little strange pop. I don't know if that was just the truck or what. I am in four-wheel drive now. The indicator is on the screen. Nothing's flashing or doing anything crazy, so we are in four-wheel drive. And I gotta say, I don't really feel any difference. Interesting. Let's get out here on this 55-mile-an-hour road. We'll see in the turn here if it feels any differently. And I will say, you know, in the past, when I've gone to four-wheel drive in automatics, I could really feel a difference, but nothing so far. Here we go. Let's get out here on the road. Nothing too much in the turn there. I will say the steering wheel does feel a little bit heavier, if that makes sense. So I can feel a little bit of a heavier sensation in the steering wheel. So I do feel a little bit of a difference there. Again, we want to keep it under 62 mile an hour. I got to be mindful of that. Otherwise than that little kind of heavier feeling steering wheel, I really don't notice too much of a difference. It actually feels pretty darn normal, like it would any other time, I suppose. Matter of fact, strangely, that kind of bounciness that I get, I'm not really feeling it now. I don't know, maybe I need to be driving in four-wheel drive all the time. I don't know, not really. I wouldn't, because I don't want to be putting tires on every month, but so far, so good. I'm impressed. And we're traveling right now, so that you guys know, we're at 53 miles an hour. So well under the 62 mile an hour. Actually, we're about 56, but well under the 62 mile an hour limitation that the manual says you should stay below anyway. So I think we're golden there. Now, the one other thing I do want to mention, of course, when you're driving in four-wheel drive, your gas mileage is going to suffer. Another reason, I suppose, why you wouldn't want to drive around in four-wheel drive, you know, like all the time. So that's something else to be aware of. We are going to make a turn here, so I want to see if I feel anything in the turn. Because that, for me, is where you really could always feel the four-wheel drive in a turn. The tires would really start to grab. And I know there wasn't really much there at all. I know in Krista's Jeep, and she has a Jeep Wrangler, you can really feel the tires gripping in the turns. You could almost hear it like it was a kind of sound, you know? Pretty darn aggressive in the Wrangler. And I don't know if that's because obviously it's a different system, or if possibly it's just because it's a short wheelbase. I'm not exactly sure, but this is impressive, I must admit. I don't remember the other Tacomas that I had when I drove in four-wheel drive being this smooth. It's going to be interesting. I am going to test out the Gladiator. And by the way, I have a second channel. It is Rob Motion. Check that out. But I am going to check out the Gladiator on that channel. We're going to do a four-wheel drive run much like this in that truck, and I'll be curious to see if that truck behaves any differently than this one does, if it's more like Krista's Wrangler is in four-wheel drive. So we'll be doing that later. If you want to see that, again, check out the other channel, Rob Motion. It'll be on there in a few days probably. Cruising along right now. We're in fourth gear, about 52 miles an hour, and this is seamless. I am very impressed as to how this works. You'd never know. I think if you took somebody and put them in this truck and they didn't know that they were in four-wheel drive, I don't think they could tell the difference. I really don't. Now, I am assuming that everything is functioning properly. It would appear so. I have the indicator on the screen that shows I'm in four-wheel drive, so I think everything is fine. In a few minutes, we're going to go ahead and shift out of four-wheel drive because supposedly you can do that on the fly as well without depressing the clutch or anything like that. I am going to get into a slower speed area here because I wanted to see just how it reacts, like just on the side streets, you know, under 50 mile an hour, under 45 mile an hour. So pulling up to a stoplight here, so we're going to have to make a stop, unfortunately. Let's talk about shifting real quick, and I know it shouldn't make any difference, but it's worth mentioning, I think, and that is that shifting doesn't seem to be any different. The manual transmission in the truck seems to be the same. Don't feel anything being in four-wheel drive, rather, so that's good. I'm impressed. I really am. The system in this truck is pretty darn good. Kudos to Toyota. Okay, here we go. Get away from this stoplight. Make the turn. And this is where you would really get it, right there in the apex of that turn. Now, I will say the steering wheel is definitely heavier as you're in the turn. In other words, it does, and this is very, very minor, but it does want to fight you a little bit as you're going in that turn. It wants to straighten out. And that's the four-wheel drive kind of grabbing the road a little bit. You know, it's grabbing in and it wants to straighten out the truck. So I did notice that. Again, it is very, very minor. Certainly nothing that you would be alarmed by if you're new. And that's kind of the benefit of this video, I think. You know, for you die-hard, everyday four-wheel drivers out there, you're probably sitting there going, well, no kidding, man, come on. But there are a lot of people out there, actually 96% of the owners, that never even put their truck in four-wheel drive, or at least do it very infrequently. So this is kind of to give you guys an idea of what four-wheel drive feels like in your Tacoma. Here's another turn. Kind of coasted through that. Yeah, it's very, very light, that feel that you get when the truck wants to go back to straight from the turn. Now we're going to cruise along here at about 30 miles an hour, and this is probably more indicative of what an off-roader would be doing, right? I mean, when you're going off-road and you're going down trails and things, chances are, unless you're in a desert or something, you're probably not going to be traveling at 55 miles an hour. If you do, I would think you're probably going to have a pretty darn rough ride. So this is a lot more similar, I guess, to what four-wheel drive would be like if you were off-road. I'd like to be off-road right now, but unfortunately, all I have near me at the moment, and here is a sharp turn in second gear. Smooth as silk, man. Anyway, I'd like to be off-road right now, but unfortunately all that's near me is pavement at the moment, so that's why we're not doing this off-road. But we will, as soon as I find a place I can get off-road. That turn was good. That was a sharper, more kind of a hairpinish type turn, and the truck didn't fight me at all. Nothing. I want to comment too, no issues going into first gear from the stop. I've mentioned in other videos that it's almost like a hydrolock or something. You know, the synchros don't mesh up properly sometimes, and going into first gear from a stop, sometimes you can't do it. You have to double clutch in order to get into first gear. I haven't experienced that at all today driving this around in four-wheel drive. So I don't know if it has anything to do with anything. It shouldn't, but hey, it's what I'm experiencing. All right, now we're going to go back to two-wheel drive and see if I feel anything in the truck. Let me get a good straight run going here. All right, let's go ahead and go back to two-wheel drive. Again, no clutch, no neutral, no nothing. Here we go. All right, the indicator flashed about 3 times, and that was it. Wow. I am impressed. I must say, this is seamless. What an excellent system. I mean, when you can go from two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive on the fly and feel nothing, that's just awesome. I don't know what to say. I'm amazed at how well the system works in this truck. Again, much different than what my wife's was like in her Wrangler. It was much more aggressive, much rougher than what it is in this Tacoma. So kudos to Toyota. Awesome. Anyway, I just wanted to get on, kind of bring you guys with me in my inaugural run in the Tacoma in four-wheel drive. What can I say? It's awesome. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. If you've driven other four-wheel drive vehicles, how do you find the Tacoma system compared to them? Also, if you haven't and you're interested, as I mentioned earlier, I have a second channel. It is Rob Motion. Check that out. It's all about my 2020 Jeep Gladiator. And if you haven't before and you'd like to, sorry, I gotta open something here. Click that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any upcoming videos. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there.